Okay, I apologize for another intro to a video driving to the fishing spot, but this is how we're gonna do it. I'm headed out to catch some trout on a drop shot, and I will get to that, but I'm gonna try to quickly go through like how we got to this point. I started out the fall with kind of a checklist of things I wanted to do. I wanted to go out and catch salmon on a 16 millimeter bead. My friend Daryl Minton has got Slain Steel bead, like a bead company, and I took out some 16 millimeter beads and down to the river, got into some salmon. I was thoroughly impressed with his beads, and then I picked up a bunch for the rest of the season for the browns and the rainbows and the Lakers. So I checked the salmon off the list, and now the brown is on the list. I've been bouncing around doing some personal fishing, trying to get into brown trout. I got really nice steelhead in the process on one of Daryl's beads. They're really kind of like natural. Like if I had to describe his beads, I'm gonna say they're like natural colors. In a sense, they're natural colors, but they're like 100% like in your face, blatant, highly visible, if that's possible. It's kind of a contradiction that they're natural and highly visible sort of thing. But I got a nice rainbow on his beads, trying to get a brown. I was drifting some of his prototype beads, and he's launching them. You can probably find them on his website. They're really interesting. I think he's going to market them as like a low visibility sort of bead, but the things that these beads were doing in clear water was just, I couldn't really figure out what was happening. They look really neat. There's like an orange eye on the one side and like a pink eye on the one side, and they're like this interesting kind of chartreuse color. But anyways, I got a brown on that prototype, but it shook off when I was farting around in the net and got away. The real thing that I wanted to check off my list was a big Kyped-up male brown, and so I set out my last 2 days off. The forecast was pretty miserable, so I chose to go to some of the more popular spots, and hoping that the bad weather would kind of keep the crowds away. The first day I fished port. But the forecast didn't really match up with the hours that I was going to be there. Like the weather wasn't too bad, so the typical spots were really crowded, and so I just pushed down, found a stretch of water, and fished it. I fished a drop shot with a minnow on it. It's a technique that I picked up fishing with Paul Castellano. Every time I go with Paul Castellano, it's kind of a top-notch experience. The one time I had gone out a couple years back, and Hiroshi Nishine, whose minnows I fish a lot, Hiroshi was coming up with a concept for a drop shot hook that would always kind of be like perpendicular to the line. And that particular trip that I went out with Paul, I caught the first fish on the first batch of hooks from the manufacturer for sale. So like the first hook after the prototype process, when they went for full assembly, I got a really nice brown, drop shotting some minnows. So I took that concept like to port last week, got a fish. I had been messing around with that in a way. I was gonna try to do it like a bobber dogging kind of scenario where I'd cast out a drop shot rig under a float, and I was hoping that would keep me out of the snags and some of the different drifts and that, but it became like a bit of a mess on its own with all this extra line out, and you're still having to like kind of dial in the depth a bit, and it was really confusing trying to figure out what the bobber was doing, like as it was ticking from rock to rock, whether it was a bite or you're ticking off rocks or dragging or anyways, it became a bit of a mess. But the drop shot idea kind of worked last week.
You need a minute? I'm good. Okay, for whatever reason I didn't have the camera going, but I got one cast and I missed a fish. I thought I screwed up and I bombed it out to the same spot and hooked up right away. So drop shot is working. Using the machine A minnow. This is a spawned out female, but she's not happy with me. Get this fish back.
And I'm coming back today, give it another whirl. Another idea that I've used in the past is flow fishing for trout. I've attached a clevis just above the minnow to have a little flash, so I might give that a whirl today. But the whole the reason why I'm so adamant on kind of trying this drop shot idea out is it's not really affected by the depth that you're fishing. Like the minnow will always go to the strike zone. It's not really affected by the current speed. No matter what the current speed is, you can get it down in the strike zone. If there's slush on the water, if there's wind, you're always in the strike zone. With float fishing, like the whirlpool, like depending on how far out you cast, the way the shoreline is, it's like if you cast it out a certain depth and you're set for 15 feet, you're in the sweet zone. If you don't cast it out far enough, or the current slows down, then you're dragging and snagging. And then if the current's too fast, or if you cast too far, then sometimes you're drifting above the fish. So I'm really kind of excited. Like, obviously you can do the same sort of deal with a 3-way rig, but if you have like a long section off the 3-way that you attach your minnow to, your bead, your streamer, whatever you're fishing, your corky, depending on how the current behaves, like sometimes that will like maybe not act natural when it's being checked against the current, or if the current's going too slow, then you just end up down in the rocks hooking zebra mussels and stuff. So I'm really excited to get out and try this. After my last 2 days off, I went down to the whirlpool, and the fishing down in the whirlpool was like, started out a little bit slow. Nobody around me was catching. Water clarity looked good, but the water was really low. There was still some zombie salmon kicking around, so I just kind of drifted some beads in the one drift that I was able to get into, which I end up being in that drift quite often because I get there late, and for whatever reason it's not anybody's first choice. It's not really a numbers kind of drift, but you can generally squeak out a fish. And I did hook up on, again, one of Slant Steel's, one of Daryl's beads, and the fish popped off when I was reaching around to turn on a second camera just to kind of get a second angle on the fight with the fish, and so that was a bit of a mistake. I really enjoy the pool, but this spot's getting a lot of pressure today. So I'm down in port. I do have plans to fish the pool quite a bit, but I'm gonna let the numbers die down a little bit. I'm gonna try to stay away from the crowds again today, and try to dial in this drop shotting technique. So I'm not taking credit for it. I've never really seen it done from shore, but I've fished it with Paul in the boat using Hiroshi's hooks and Hiroshi's minnows. I don't have any Hiroshi's hooks today. I've misplaced them. I tried to get some more from Peter's Tackle, but they were sold out. So I'm gonna make do with a drop shot knot and maybe a sickle hook. Conditions look really great. I'm gonna have a cold wind in my face, but hopefully we can grab another fish here, and hopefully it's that big Kyped-up Brown, and get that checked off the list, and then I can just enjoy the rest of the season, and just whatever ends up being on the end of my line, just kind of appreciate that. But yeah, I really want to, I was never a bottom bouncing guy. I just never really had the patience for retying all the time. But I guess that's once you get better at the technique and learn the different sensations and that, I guess you don't really have to retie as often. So I just want to see like if having the line on an angle will impair the presentation at all. But I feel like the fact that it's always in the strike zone, the fact that the minnow might be a little bit crooked now and again, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. So hopefully the fact that you're always kind of in the strike zone will compensate for whatever angle the minnow might be presenting on, or if it even looks wrong, because like it's always gonna kind of be in the strike zone and probably going a little bit slower than the current in the area and that. But yeah, let's go put this to the test and hopefully get a colored up male today, a nice sized fish. That's the plan. Okay, we're pretty much ready for our first cast. Just got to set up the net probably first and then get the line out. Gonna start with 3/4 ounce at the bottom. Got a little piece of 5-pound test for breaking off. Micro swivel to a 10-pound test with the sickle hook, DropShot knot, the Nishine minnow, the clevis with the little blade, another micro swivel to my main line. I'll try the 3/4 ounce. We might have to bump it up to 7/8. We'll see. I got some bigger leads too, but we'll get that dialed in and hopefully be into a fish before long. Oh for 1. I don't really want to, but I'm going to lose the blade. And lose the minnow. And can put a couple drifts with this on, and then maybe a couple drifts with the white minnow. But I feel like I should have had a fish by now. So I don't know if the browns and the rainbows, if they're keyed into a different size minnow or a different color minnow, or if I'm just doing everything wrong. But so I'm just gonna cycle through a couple colors and hope something will happen. just popped a smaller weight on, and I'm gonna bounce this inside seam, and there's still some fish kind of in the inside seam slashing at minnows, so hopefully I can trip one of them up. I just lost another one. There's a ton of fish slashing at minnows right now. I seem to be getting most of my strikes like on the retrieve. I do have a spinner with me. I don't really want to fish the spinner today, but the weird thing is I haven't seen a minnow yet, so I don't know what to switch to. But if I don't land one soon, then I'm gonna have to try another color. I'm gonna make a small move. There's a fish that keeps blowing up just down from me here, so I'll chase him, and then if I have to, I'll switch colors. They're doing some stalking at the boat launch over there. I don't know if they're stalking browns or rainbows or salmon. I don't know what they're stalking, but there's like 2 trucks full of fingerlings going in. I don't know what they are. Okay, the wind is absolutely ripping this morning. I don't know what you're going to be able to hear, but at least the wind is kind of going to help my cast a little bit. So we'll go back down to the 3/4 ounce weight and see if we can't smack a fish nice and early. I kind of, even though I didn't catch yesterday, I had a lot of short strikes and stuff. I'm pretty confident that this is going to work down on the river. Probably even better on the river, so we'll see if we bust it out maybe during the birthday session. But I kind of want to catch a fish, and I think this is pretty level. Anyways, let's get going.
like, well, maybe we can win today. That worked better. Yeah. Nice to be away from the trout. Yeah. Let you guys on the other side. Have a good one, bud.
Thanks. All right, I'm gonna pull out my landing mat and take a look at this brown. Hello. You're not gonna believe me if I told you.
2 seconds.
My second cast.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
That's a beauty.
Oh, he is.
Nice going. You taking him home?
No, no.
Good for you.
He's gorgeous, eh?
What a pretty fish.
Yeah.
That makes coming out all worthwhile, doesn't it?
It does. That's what it's all about.
Nice going, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you throw it back.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. This brown's ready to go back. Second cast with a little Kype-up, little 3-inch minnow bait. This one is ripping. I feel a lot better about all the decisions I made yesterday. Just having confidence what I was doing. I think the water clarity was just to the point that the fish were really picky about everything. But the clarity's down a little bit, kind of like the first trip when I got that first brown. So let's see if we can repeat this. And I'm happy with the rig. I just couldn't confirm things for myself. So we'll get this back out there and maybe repeat it in the future. Down on the big river. I just put a bigger lead on. I was getting a big bow on my line because there's just as much wind helping as there is coming across. So just want to see if what it feels like with this bigger lead on, and see if it ends up being too much and I get snagged up, or if I at least kind of feel the bottom a bit better. I'm gonna try to move, try to present my bait in the more froggier water, spot that might be more of a natural ambush spot for something that's like searching for minnows. So I'm just gonna move into some more slack water, and maybe the wind won't be as much of a factor, but we'll see. I might just end up snagging up all the time. I'm going to take advantage of the fact nobody's around and just kind of bounce around a little bit and help me keep warm too. I got time for a few more casts before I gotta go. I decided not to do the freeway. I'm just gonna come over to this more froggy water where I see some of the fish coming to the surface. I'm gonna try to fish this bait like it's smallmouth, and hop it, leave it in place, give it a couple twitches, hop it, leave it in place. See if I can't figure out what's surfacing out here. But give them a different look with this bigger profile bait. And then I gotta go. Dun, dun, dun. This is a perfect time to pack it in, I think. I was beginning to lose faith that I was going to get another fish today. This fish choked it. And this is pretty exciting. Trout on the DropShot. We'll take it to the big river next. anyways, part of the reason I wanted to do the drop shot was I could fish in like multiple depths, multiple current speeds, like varying wind, like all kinds of crappy conditions, and always be in the strike zone a little bit. Obviously, I've kind of changed the approach a little bit, but the technique is still the same, and the results have been good. So, yeah, might have to carry a second rod down to the big river next session.